Hey guys, so welcome back to my vlog, and if you're new, welcome to my vlog. So I know it's been a little bit since I have posted a video. There's just been a lot going on, so I haven't really had time to film a whole lot. But we're gonna get back to filming, and we're gonna try to film at least once a week. But in my last video I had posted, I said that I would do a video explaining what endometriosis is and my backstory on it. So that's what this video is going to be about today. So you may hear my kid a little bit in the background on her monitor. She is supposed to be sleeping, but teething is at its finest and keeping her from napping. So she's currently just playing in her bed. So we're going to start off by explaining what endometriosis is. And I have my handy dandy notebook here with notes and stuff like that because it is a lot to explain. And I wanted to write down a timeline of my personal story on it. That way I didn't miss anything or leave anything out. And I just want to clarify that I am not a doctor, so this is just my experience from having endometriosis, what I've been told by doctors, and also just doing my own research over years. So, what is endometriosis? Endometriosis is a disorder where the tissue that normally is found inside of the uterus, like the lining, grows outside of the uterus, and that can grow in areas like around your fallopian tubes, your ovaries, on the outside of your uterus, on the vagina, the intestines. Like, it can be found anywhere in your abdominal cavity. And what this does is it creates scar tissue, because just like your normal period, how that lining sheds every single month and you bleed, well, this is still happening with the lining that's growing outside of the uterus in the abdominal cavity. It is still shedding every month with your menstrual periods, so that blood doesn't have anywhere to go, so it creates scar tissue, and it can be really, really painful. That's actually one of the common symptoms of it, is pain. You can find pain in your lower abdomen, in your pelvis. You can find it in your lower back, the rectum, or your vagina, which a lot of people, including myself, deal with painful intercourse. And it's so frustrating, but yes, that is one of the symptoms. And then other symptoms include constipation or nausea, abdominal fullness, which is like bloating. So for me personally, I can look completely normal, and then by halfway through the day, like especially after I eat something, I will look like I'm 3 to 4 months pregnant because I just bloated so much. So, and it can cause a lot of cramping, like all throughout your cycle. It doesn't have to be just during menstruation. You can cramp whenever. And then it can cause abnormal menstruation, heavy menstruation, irregular menstruation, and painful menstruation or spotting throughout your cycle. For me personally, my menstruation's all over the place. Sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's really light. But one thing that is always constant is that I always get painful menstruations to where I have to take a leave, and that's the only thing that works. And that makes sense because with endometriosis, it's an inflammatory problem, and that's what leave is an NSAID, so it's what it works for. Another classical symptom of it is infertility, which is not being able to get pregnant or really hard to get pregnant. So, which is what I did struggle with. Causes of endometriosis, they actually don't know what causes it. There's been studies of it, research studies of it, and they have theories that may have caused it. One of them is retrograde of menstrual flow, which basically means that when you're bleeding with your menstrual period, that blood is flowing backwards, up through the fallopian tubes and out the ovaries, and that's how they are thinking one way that you can get it. Another way they think that you can get it is through genetics, and it be hereditary, passed on in the family, because that's what they are finding. As of right now, that's really the only two most common ways that they're finding it. if you have any kind of abdominal surgery, they think that that can cause it as well, but everything is still kind of unknown. It's only been research done on it and stuff like that. There are 4 different stages of it. Stage 1 is minimal, stage 2 is mild, stage 3 is moderate, and stage 4 is severe. When I found out I had endometriosis, I was found to have stage 3 endometriosis, which is where they told me I probably would not be able to conceive naturally, that I would probably need IVF to conceive, which did not end up happening. I ended up conceiving natural, so we were very happy about that. So treatments of endometriosis, the most common treatment of it is hormones, which is birth control, and that's because hormones play a role in promoting endometriosis. It causes it to become worse. And then you can do 2 different kinds of surgery. The electrosurgery, which I'm honestly not really sure what that is, and then I always pronounce this wrong, so forgive me, but laparoscopic surgery, however you say that, I can never pronounce it right. But that's the surgery that I had with mine, and they basically just made 3 tiny little incisions, stuck a camera through the bigger incision, and then the 2 smaller incisions they put their tools through, and they went and burned all of my endometriosis spots. But there is no cure for it, so because it can still grow back, and it's impossible to get all of the spots even with surgery. And then you can have medical procedures with cauterization, ablation, electrocoagulation, and endometrial ablation. So those are the 3 main treatment ways to try to treat it. And like I said, there is no cure for it. You can even have a hysterectomy and you will still have endometriosis. You may have the symptoms less severe, but you will still have endometriosis because it is impossible to get all of the scar tissue out. And they say that when you have a hysterectomy, that some of that lining of the uterus can escape out during the surgery. So it is impossible to get rid of endometriosis. Once you have it for the rest of your life. You can treat it to make the symptoms less severe, but unfortunately you're stuck with it, and it sucks. I will be the first to testify that it sucks. So, and then I just wanted to give off a couple facts. So about 10% of women worldwide have endometriosis. So that comes down to roughly around 176 million women in the world have endometriosis. And women that have infertility issues, they are finding about 30 to 50% of those women have endometriosis. On average, it takes about 8 years from your onset of symptoms to actually having a diagnosis of endometriosis, and that's because it's so misunderstood, it's so misdiagnosed that they're not catching it early, and it just takes a while to get a diagnosis of it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into my story. So I started having painful periods and heavy periods around the age of 17. I had been to the doctors like a couple times for it. I didn't really want to be on birth control at that point. They told me I could take like NSAIDs, which is like Aleve and naproxen, or just Tylenol during my menstrual cycles to kind of help with the symptoms of it. A year or 2 later, I was constantly in and out of the ER with like severe abdominal pain. Like I said, for about 2 years of doing that, every single time they just kept saying it was nothing. They couldn't find anything. They didn't know what was causing it. It wasn't even like during my menstrual cycle. It was like all throughout my cycles, I was just getting random abdominal pain, and it would be so severe that I would end up wanting to go to the ER because of it. And I can say that I'm a person with high pain tolerance. So for me to like say like, yeah, I want to go to the ER for this, that just tells you how bad it actually can feel. About after 2 years of going in and out of the ER for it, they finally said, hey, maybe it has to do with your reproductive system. Like, we're going to refer you to an OBGYN. So I got referred there. They did ultrasounds and stuff, but endometriosis is really hard to see on an ultrasound. So most likely, they're not going to be able to see it on ultrasound in most cases. But because of my symptoms of it, I was still having heavy periods, painful periods. I was starting to have pain during sexual intercourse, just pain throughout my entire cycle. So they suspected that I had endometriosis, but they didn't fully know. So their solution was to stick me on birth control. So I finally started taking birth control, and I was on that for a while. It did help with my symptoms, which is another reason why they suspected I had it. Eventually, I think it was around 3 years later, my pain started worsening. And it was at the point where I would have to miss out on work a couple of days every month because of it, because I'd just be crunched up in a ball, like just bawling. It was just mentally, it was a lot. So knowing that I could have this infertility disorder, I might not be able to have kids at all or naturally, it was a lot. I ended up going to another OBGYN to get like a second opinion, and they did another ultrasound. They did also an internal ultrasound, and they did find a cyst on my fallopian tube. So, which is common with endometriosis to find cysts and masses and stuff like that. So they wanted to do the surgery to not only remove the cyst, but to also go in and explore my abdomen and see what was exactly causing the pain. So we did that. I did the surgery 2016. So they removed the cyst, and they did find endometriosis all in my abdominal cavity. They burned all of the spots that they could find in my endometriosis, and they even gave me pictures of it, and it was crazy. I saw in the pictures all the redness of the what the endometriosis looked like, and then afterwards, after they burned it, it was just all black. So they did that, and that is obviously not going to cure it, because it is, like I said earlier, it is impossible to get rid of all of the scar tissue. After the surgery, I went back on birth control because I had been off of it because it just didn't seem like it was working anymore. So I tried a different birth control, and it seemed to help a little bit. I was still kind of going through painful moments. That's when I found out I had stage 3 endometriosis. And they had told me that I probably would not be able to conceive naturally, that I'd probably have to go through IVF. And that's where, mentally wise, it just became a lot knowing that I felt like my body gave up on me. I wasn't able to do what a normal woman's body can do, to carry your child. I felt like I messed up somewhere, it was my fault, I caused it. But I know obviously now that that's not the case or anything like that. It's just, it happens. So that was 2016. And I still had pain kind of on and off after that for a little while, for a few years. Still heavy bleeding, heavy menstruation, painful intercourse. None of that really changed at all until I got pregnant in 2018. That is when all of my symptoms stopped, and which is normal when you get pregnant because the progesterone takes over instead of estrogen. And it put my endometriosis in remission for a while, which can normally happen when you have a kid. You can be in remission for a few years afterwards, or you may just be in remission for a few weeks, a couple months, or not at all. And I was fortunately one of the ones that I have been in remission for the past 3 years, and it's been amazing. I still have occasional heavy periods, but I don't get the horrible pain I used to. Sometimes I still have pain, but not anything like it was at all. Every once in a while, I'll have painful sexual intercourse, but otherwise, that's pretty much for the most part gone for now. But eventually, it'll come back, and I know that. But we are with trying to conceive for baby number 2. There's a part of me that is really worried I'm going to struggle to get pregnant. We are currently on month 3 of trying. I know my last video we were on cycle 2, and I believe in that video I was showing you how I tested for ovulation. We did not fall pregnant that month. I never got around to videoing it. I didn't even test that month. I just let it see if my period came or not, and sure enough it did. But yes, that is a trying to conceive for baby number 2 update. We are currently on cycle 3 and we're halfway through that cycle. So we're right around ovulation time. That is an update on that. But I wanted to give you guys my story on how I found out I had endometriosis, just in case it helps someone else. And it's topics that's like, it's not very well talked about at all, and it should be, because it does affect a lot of women, and it's not a very fun disorder to have, and it deserves to be talked about, because that means that the more women it can help who might know or might think that they could have it, or have symptoms of it that they don't realize that could be symptoms of it, and maybe get to be one of those women who it's not taking 8 years to find out that they have it, and they can get help sooner for it. So, but infertility in general is not something that's talked about very often, and it needs to be. So I just wanted to let you guys know what endometriosis was, give a little bit of information on it, my backstory, and give you that little bit of a trying to conceive update. That is it for today's video, and I will see you guys next time. If you have any questions, just write them down below, and I will do my best to answer them the best that I can. And just remember, I am not a doctor. This is just me telling you what I've been told over the years, all the research I've done over the years, and just my personal experience of living with endometriosis. So until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye!